Hey Mike, hello.
Arne, long time no speak.
Wow, how are you?
I'm doing fine, keeping busy. Everything is going as expected, and of course, there's a lot of stuff going on, as always.
As always, right? Busy,
Yes,
busy, busy. Look, and I love the
absolutely.
background. The background's just typical Mike, right? This is your own personal picture, isn't it?
This is one of my personal pictures. Yes, it's the combination of these huge modern wind turbines with this old Dutch. I don't know whether you see it to the right here.
Yes,
Um,
the little one, right? The little
Little
one.
windmill that's being dwarfed in comparison to
That's
these
right.
huge turbines. Yes.
That's right. Hey, so we're here to talk about customs valuation, right? Which is one of the pillars of customs compliance as we
and
as
one
a
of my
community.
and one of my favorite subjects.
Really, really,
Yeah.
really. See, with customs valuation, it is always interesting because, I ask people this question: what is it worth to you? Right? And what a question is this? What a load of questions is what is it worth to you? But for customs purposes, customs valuation, so the value of a product is something else. So, we're running this Pillars of Customs Compliance course, and we're really excited about this. And we've allocated more than 4 hours to talk about valuation. Now, so clearly, it can't be
Huge
that
subject.
difficult,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
What is the value for me is obviously what goes, regardless of what anybody else says, right?
Well, here's your conundrum, and valuation is an unusually big subject because it actually hits on literally everything in customs legislation, from the amount of taxes that you pay, and sometimes it even defines the rate of duty over and under a certain value per item, etc. And if you ask somebody, how would you define value, you can get any one of, I've written down a few answers on it, just jotted down before our call. I knew we were going to talk about valuation. So somebody said, well, obviously that's the price. The value of something is its price. And
Yeah.
somebody else said, no, it's not the price, it's the cost. It's whatever it costs. And yet another person said, well, it's whatever you charge me, or the fee I have to pay to get that item, that is its value. And then I said, well, what about whether you pay or don't pay? And somebody said, well, of course there has to be a payment in order to establish a value. And I can go on. There are many more words. I think you've all heard of the net worth of something. You've heard of the price of goods sold, the POGs of a SKU of an item in a shop. Ex works prices. You can go on and on. The question is, how has the WTO defined a global meaning of the word value? What is the value? And I think for that, it is important to take this out of the linguistic content and into the legal content. There is a legal definition under the WTO, the World Trade Organization, of what the value of something is. And it's actually quite a complicated definition.
Okay, so I've heard of this, right? The WTO kind of valuation agreement. It talks about 6 rules, right? So
Yes.
in a nutshell, is it so difficult to determine what the value of something is? Because rightfully, as you say, I have here in front of me an invoice that has a value. That is surely what I have to declare to the customs authorities. And then the case of repairs, right? That's what I'm thinking of, where I'm sending a good for repair and then I'm returning it, but I've already paid for it. So there's no real value here. And then the final thing, of course, there's so many shipments around the world where I don't have a value. Research, for example, I might work on a vaccine that might never be commercialized, right? So I guess that's what we have the valuation rules for. What are these 6 rules?
Well, absolutely, you hit on a sore point. And before I get to those rules, it's, the easiest valuation rule says, well, the value of something is the price paid or payable with a few additional costs thrown in, like shipping and insurance. But the cost payable or paid requires that there is a commercial transaction which was concluded between 2 independent parties in an open marketplace. That is the prerequisite. The problem is that a full 30 to 50% of today's international transactions are between daughter companies of the same holding, there are stock transfers, there are movements of half-finished raw materials that are going from one factory to be finished in another factory to be sent back. There is this toll manufacturing. There is, like you said, a lot of warranty, replacement, repairs. There's a lot of free of charge goods being supplied, whether it's for promotion or to make good on a discount or to satisfy a potential future customer. If you want to present yourself at a trade fair, what do? You load up your little truck with all the stuff that you want to sell, and you drive across the border to that, fair or exhibition ground. And when somebody says at the border, what is the value of the stuff in your truck? You say, well, I haven't sold it yet. I'm just going to show it to potential customers. So literally, I would separate, rather than taking 6 value methodologies, I would say there's really 2 big buckets here. There is the big bucket of there has been a real normal sales transaction between a buyer and somebody totally different who is the seller of the goods. And they've agreed in a contract, I will buy product X from you at set price and I will pay you that price via the bank. You will give me an invoice with that exact amount. That is the easiest rule in the WTO Valuation Rules. And that's the price paid or payable. Everything else comes down to very complex considerations of who is selling to whom, at which point is the sale being concluded, where did the transaction start, is there any other remuneration for that particular product provided, etc., etc. And yes, all of those other methodologies are caught in rules 2 through 6, as you call them. There were 6 methods, and of course, many of our colleagues in this business only know 2 rules: Rule 1 and Rule 1A. Rule 1A, Arne, to remind you, Rule 1A is the one we made up. That doesn't exist.
Okay, I can see now why we need a bit of time to discuss this. And I'm, even with Rule 1, well, the standard rule, the price payable, there are a lot of things to consider because it's not as straightforward as saying I've got this price on the invoice. As you rightfully mentioned, we should mention this. There is additions, there are subtractions, there is lots of other considerations to reach a objective price paid or payable, right? I'm just thinking about royalties here or any other assists and all these things that we don't think about. So what we are going to discuss in these 4 hours is we're going to have a really good look at rule number 1 and then all of the other rules, because every customs professional should be able to name or at least discuss all of these rules. And then, of course, in addition to this, there is this question of related parties and when something is a related party, which keeps you out of rule number 1. And
absolutely, you opened Pandora's box right there, and I think that in and by itself could give us 2 days of a masterclass.
Exactly, and then the final thing I really want to explore in these 2 days or in this session on valuation is, we don't have to go into that much detail, but the transfer pricing issue, right? So there is a valuation here that is also required, not for customs valuation purposes, but for other purposes. And there is often a question as to, we already have a valuation methodology. How does that work with customs valuation? So all of these issues, I think we, with lots of examples, we should discuss.
Absolutely, and we will discuss. And just to put a very short final point on what you just said, you are quite right. This is the eternal, I guess, war between valuation from a direct taxation perspective, which is transfer pricing, and valuation from an indirect taxation perspective, which is the customs value. And both of these definitions come at the midpoint from totally different directions and with a different purpose in mind. Of course, the direct taxation authorities want to keep the price at the border as low as possible to maximize profit and corporate taxes, whereas the customs authorities want to keep the price as high as possible to maximize duties and taxes at import. So here you are, even the same tax authority, 2 people sitting across each other from the same desk will try to move the importer into different directions.
Okay, good. Well, look, it looks like 4 hours will not even be enough for this topic, but I think we have a great structure of what we're going to discuss for the valuation piece during our pillars of customs compliance. And I really look forward to discussing and having these examples, and also listening to our audience, right? Our participants, our customs experts, and our customs managers and administrators that we have on this course, because they have an experience with customs valuation, a real practical sense. So that's how we bring the general rules, or the legal rules, as you say, the WTO rules, together with real life reality. And that's what makes it so interesting.
And literally bring those rules to life on any example that the participants may choose to put on the table. We will actually look at it with our, customs valuation glasses.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Fantastic. Good. Great to speak to you again. I look forward to other videos we may do on all the other different parts we're going to discuss for the pillars of customs compliance. So great to talk to you again, Mike.
Exciting stuff, Arne. Thank you very much.
Talk to you next time.
Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.